Okay, so as we were talking about which this is the rock, paper, scissors portion of the program, what which um feature of Rejuvi, the Rejuvi platform, or which process of the Rejuvi platform, or which resource of the Rejuvi platform we want to showcase that kind of takes people on this knowing is squared journey and help them to be able to both correlate and to causate. What we decided we wanted to do was we wanted to do one feature, which is the leader population feature of the Rejuvi platform. And then we wanted to do the resource, which is the leadership to business impact analytics playbook. So I'm going to log in now. And you can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay. And for those of you who are watching for the first time and learning about the Rejuvi platform, you go to rejuviventure.com, and in the top right, if you have login credentials, you're simply going to log in. And thank goodness for password services. I'm going to do that. I'm going to log in. There's multiple user interfaces with Rejuvi, some for administrators, some for leaders. I'm going to log in as an administrator. And the first tool that we wanted to, well, no, I shouldn't say tool. The first feature that we wanted to highlight was to leader population. So for those of you watching for the first time, as to log into the platform, know that as you get out here, you're going to see these different kind of colors, and that's a way to think about it. Is there are different leadership worlds. Butterscotch is the world for directors on ups, what we might typically call our senior leaders. Red is for sales leaders. Purple is for service leaders. Blue is for team leaders. And soon is going to be expert leaders, which will be green. And so there's these different worlds out there, but when you get out there, it's asking you, how do you want to serve your leadership bench today? In this case, you're logging in as the administrator. In this case, the administrator's name is Jennifer. Think of me, this is, I'm Jennifer. And, it's going to say, how do you want to serve your leadership bench today? Leader population, or do data collection, or do reporting analytics, or do some training and development through the resources to go section. And the feature that we wanted to highlight was inside of leader population, specifically inside of the org intelligence summary, and specifically inside team drivers. So actually, I'm going to go in a different. I'm going to change my world a little bit. I'm going to go back to the starting page. I'm going to go back to lead because I think I have more data in the senior group for the company called BlackRock Steel. So I'm going to go into leader population again, and I'm going to go into org intelligence summary. This is a little bit about how much capability the organization has to run the business, to build and sustain the business over time. And I'm going to go into this team drivers report, which this team drivers report is what I would call, I don't know, I think you might agree, is kind of a fan favorite. Because
Yep.
what this does for people is, first of all, I think they get super surprised, like, wait a minute, this is leadership training. I'm getting leadership training, and the leadership training is talking to me about things like strategic intent, and how strategic intent is no longer only about vision, mission, and values, but it's also about a good, firm understanding of the competitive landscape and the value proposition, right? And so people are going, wow, this is awesome. And not just things like, oh, strategic intent is more than vision and mission and values, but that the way to run a business is more than strategic intent, the big picture, the long term of the organization. and your short-term implementation forecast, right? We know that companies who are innovating, companies who are shifting their performance curves, companies who are transforming with greater success have moved from these traditional models of what I would call building and sustaining the business to modern ones. And that means that they're no longer just worried about strategic intent, which is your long-term stuff, and implementation, which is your short-term stuff. They're bringing in whole new areas of capability in business unit intelligence and in midterm targeting. And what that allows teams and leaders to do is to find and build out new ways of working, right? So this is a fan favorite, this report, Team Drivers, for that reason. And because people go, this is awesome, because we never knew leadership training could include stuff about how to run the business. And it's like, yep, leadership training absolutely must include things like how to run the business. Now, this particular feature and leader population, as we kind of got into this Team Drivers report, I think kind of connects to, Rob, the meaning of what we tried to say, knowing is squared really means. Like, don't just record the numbers, record the meaning of the numbers. Don't just understand the correlation. Don't just understand, also understand the causation, because both are healthy. And I think what this does is it helps us to understand things more like in a correlation kind of world. It helps us to understand, like in this particular team, in this company, this is called BlackRock Steel. This is a smaller organization. They have they have 16 executive leaders. And in this case, what we know is that 6 of those executive leaders have short-term implementation as kind of their primary leadership muscle. 5 of those 16 have strategic intent as their primary leadership muscle. 4 have business unit intelligence as their primary leadership muscle. 1 has it midterm targeting as their primary leadership muscle. So it's a way to start to talk about and to correlate how much of this capability do we have? How much of that capability do we have? And it's super important to understand that, right? You do need to be able to correlate these things, because, when we worked, for example, with this team from BlackRock Steel, they were ecstatic that at least there was, like, they weren't all implementers, I guess is how to say that there was a pretty good share between short-term implementation at 6, strategic intent at 5, and then intelligence at 4. So that made them, I think, feel really, really healthy, because they looked like a balanced team, and where one person had muscle, another person had less muscle. And so there could be some cross-pollination, right? There could be some, some cross information sharing within in the group. But I think what didn't make the team feel really good is the fact that only one person had this target as a strength. And the reason why they didn't feel very good about this, I mean, look at the name of the company, BlackRock Steel. And BlackRock's steel organizations, manufacturing organizations are having to innovate. And innovation is happening. It kicks off in the intelligence corridor, but it pushes into and actually starts to happen inside of the target corridor, because here's where you're understanding and you're starting to talk about, well, if this is what we see actually happening in the market, And this is, what how our environment framing is going. How do we start to carve out the right work? How do we know what the right work actually is? And who's going to be doing that right work? Do you know what I mean, Rob?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they didn't feel very good about it because they know that they need to innovate as a manufacturing organization. And when they got these results, these that start to describe and correlate, to describe and it be diagnostic of their leadership team, it was super helpful for them at this kind of basic level, and they really wanted to know and felt good about, well, we're balanced in 3 of the 4, but we're actually super weak in this place called target. And that's a major concern for us because our organization, like most manufacturing organizations, are really challenged to innovate in this date and time. So, make sense?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Okay, so that was the feature that we wanted to demonstrate, and that you can go into the Rejuvi platform and you can click on leader population. Well, if you log in, you can click on leader population, and you can click on either leader insight summary or org intelligence summary, and you can start to get a real-time understanding of, how to think about capability inside of your organization, right? You're recording the numbers. The numbers are
Mm-hmm.
actually being recorded. What that doesn't tell you, though, is, well, what is that? What is the meaning of that? What if we've grown it? How does that actually change our performance? And what kind of confidence do we have if we actually, like, let me go back into here, go back to the team drivers report. If we increased our capability in this northeast quadrant, what kinds of results should we expect from a business perspective because we're growing our leadership capability in that area? That's when we are shifting, in your words, from a don't just record the numbers, don't just record what kind of capability you have, record the meaning of that and know what growth in that should actually expect, what you should expect if you grow that. And that's a different tool. So we're going to go back to the homepage of Rejuvi, and we're now going to go into resources. And this is where you'd go if you wanted to do some thinking, if you wanted to do some training, if you wanted to do some development. So we're going to go into this, and I'm going to go into the trusted partner folder. This is for people who, again, reminding everyone that I'm logged in as an administrator today. And an administrator for this might be like a leadership practitioner. It might be someone who heads up sales enablement, someone who heads up sales training and development because they're working with all their sales leaders. And for that reason, I'll go to the sales area. And oh no, I have to say trusted partner because it's that person, it's the actual practitioner. And I'm going to, just to make it quick, I'm going to actually type in analytics. And a document is going to come up called Rejuvi Leadership to Business Impact Analytics. And we're going to preview that for those of you who are getting a glimpse of how Rejuvi resources open up. They're going to see them like this open up every single time. Thumbnails on the left for easy navigation, primary screen on the right. And you can just use these little dots in the bottom to navigate quickly to where you want to go. And this is where Rob and I want to go today, because this is how you can start to record meaning, like Rob has talked about with a modern leadership platform. So what the Rejuvi platform allows you to do is to start to get in control of how you're growing your leadership inside the organization. And you're growing your leadership inside your organization, just like Rob and I talked about at the start of this call today. You're growing your leadership by making your leaders stronger. In addition, you're growing your leadership by helping them to run a stronger business. The triangle on this particular piece always represents growth of that leader. The more square thing represents growth of the business. Now, what the platform allows you to do is to not only record that at a what I would call, just don't just record the numbers, or don't just understand how things are correlated. Like, we've noticed that everyone in the Pacific Northwest, is at least five percentage points higher in these categories. That's a correlation, but you don't know what it means. What the Rejuvi platform allows you to do is to start to get ready to move into causation. And so this first whole category takes change, just like we talked about earlier. You're continually measuring, and you're understanding how your leadership capability is growing and changing in both of those two areas. And then you take this change and you create your deltas, and you get to a place where you can say, we're going to take this delta, and we are going to come out of this input box with what we call a credible rate of change, for our leaders inside of our organizations for this time period. Then what happens is the platform actually uses smart tools for causation, right? So we can run thousands of calculations, really fast. And what that will allow you to do is to say, if we did, if we had this credible rate of change here, then let's start to find the causations in that. Because what we want to be able to do is to have every organization use its credible rate of change, right? Its attribute level leadership data, and actually understand the meaning of it. When we grew our triangle, when we grew that we often call the see, no, do, when we grew our C capability by 3 percentage points, we noticed our turnover decreased by 14%. We noticed our efficiency ratio improved. We noticed our market share went up. And so that's what this is all about, and why I think that you and I, in this personal story that I shared at the opening of this call, which is, if you would have asked me, well, you did ask me 1 year ago what today's title actually meant, knowing is squared. Knowing is squared a year ago meant to me that you cannot develop leadership in a great way unless you're dealing with both of these equations here, things that make the leader strong and things that make the business strong. Knowing is squared. You have to have both. But I think that where we have landed in all of this is knowing is squared is about the data. And data now has the ability to be both correlated and causated. And I love your definitions of this, Rob, around don't just understand the number, understand the meaning. And that's what this particular resource allows you to do, is to understand the meaning of your change in modern leadership, right? It's so it's exciting stuff.
It is, and I think what this may sound strange, but my favorite part of this slide is not the boxes, but that big arrow at the bottom. That it's not a we run this once and move on. It's a continuous loop that we're continually, regenerating the information, collecting more data, analyzing more data, and it's a process, not a point in time. I mean, it'll give you a point in time reference, but it's not,
It's- Mhm.
it's a continuous process that you can see over time then too, how much your capabilities have changed and what that's resulted in the business.
Yeah, I think that that's so wise, and excuse me, for everyone kind of looking at this photo or this graphic, Rob is right. There is this continuous feedback loop that's going on. Input drives process, process drives output. Credible rate of change will push on tools to help you to understand the correlations and causations. The correlations and causations help you to get to that point where you have confidence in your KPI impact. When you have confidence in your KPI impact, guess what happens? You're down here, coming back over here. Now you understand that if you have to do certain things, your stakeholders or your environment, whatever has changed such that you need more of this, less of this, in relationship to outcomes, you now can start to understand how you need to grow your leadership capability. You have meaning. The feedback loop creates meaning, and it creates such a different understanding, a more beautiful understanding of what we mean by knowing is squared. What's interesting is, I'm going to stop sharing here now. What's interesting is, people are watching me, today. My voice is just a tiny bit raspy, and I'm using my Kleenex, my tissue, and so I've got a little bit of a cold. And so, I would say that when you're not feeling your absolute best, you don't run into a podcast and go, "Whoa, I get to do a podcast."
Yeah.
But I think that what's so cool about this is that even though I don't feel at my absolute best, is that this is this is so meaningful, this conversation that happened. What modern leadership is learning about correlations and causations, and the ease with which organizations can now have access to that, is just absolutely exciting stuff.